Our film begins with Keto and Matt, married people who love each other, and your house in their new house, which needs some repairs and restoration. Their house consists of 2 floors, and on the second floor there are many furniture belonging to the first resident. Matt keeps throwing in the old furniture until he finds a large iron key and throws it away with the rest of the furniture, and it becomes a cleaned rug. The kitchen was on the floor, so she went out of the house to bury it. She fumbled, throwing the old furniture out of the window. Then she came back to bury the bird and found it had disappeared in front of her. She continued to caress, and as he died cleaning, he thought that there was a door in the wall surrounded by wallpaper, and he kept removing the paper until the entire door was visible in front of him. Bella finds the door key that looks like the key he had thrown away and goes looking for it to open it with it. He puts the key in the door and calls his wife to see the room he found. He considers it an additional space for the house, nothing more. Night comes, and he rests. And after a tiring day, the second day comes and they are asking for a representative from the electricity company because the electricity in the house is not working properly. And Matt goes downstairs with him, and there is a large and very complicated wire network in the house. And the electricity source is very old and has not been used for a long time, and he cannot do anything in the house. And Matt asks that he is definitely not from the area. Otherwise, he would not have bought this particular house. And they ask Matt about the reason. The representative explains to him that a murder took place in this house a long time ago, and since then, no one approaches the house or thinks about buying it. After the representative leaves Matt, he enters to see the story of the house and what happened in it, and he reads that the owners of the house were killed there at the hands of an unknown person who has no file to replace it. On his personality. He was arrested after committing the crime and sentenced to life imprisonment in a mental hospital. His identity is unknown until now. He is known as John Doe, and he continues to read about the news until night comes and his wife Bella fell asleep on the sofa. So he goes out and sits for a while in the room they found, carrying his shoes. He continues to drink whiskey in it until it finishes, and he says that he is in a bottle again, and he turns off the flashlight next to him. And as soon as he comes back to light, I am alone and finds that in a bottle. A pipe has appeared in front of him, as I wish. So he is in a state of confusion from what is happening, and the day comes. And Kate wakes up from sleep, and she finds Matt without freckles all night. She goes into the room and finds an original Van Gogh, and the room is full of many things around it. He asks his wife to wish for anything she wants. So she tells him, "I want $1,000. The light in the room goes off and the light turns on again, and Mattie keeps looking around among the things in the room and brings her the $1,000 she wished for. She asks about the secret of the trick he did, and he makes her understand that there is no trick or anything, and that the secret is in the room itself, and he makes her try to wish again, and this time she wishes for $1 million. And in fact, $1 million appears in front of her, and they spend the whole day wishing for everyone who wants decorations, and he spends the day very happy, wishing he died because of his work as an artist, all the original paintings of all the famous artists, so that he can decorate his home with it, and they will be happy with the one who makes the room. But even though they have the ability to answer anything they need, the woman keeps missing the most important thing, which is that she remains a mother. And this is because of what the doctors said, that the chances of giving birth are weak because she had a miscarriage. Twice before that. Matt tried to make it easy for her and brought her a room in the house for the children and asked her to try another one, but she refused and said that she could not bear the loss of a second child and that she was not ready to try more than what they had given him. And he left Matt and walked outside the house for a while and came back to her again, and Bella was in. She has a young child in her hand who understands the misfortune that his wife caused and tells her that we cannot get anything alive out of the room because we know that anything from the room is an illusion and not reality. As he grows up, she takes the child and tries to make the room hide him as it appeared, and she is unable to speak because she is afraid that the room will take him. In fact, she asks Matt to take him and hide him as he wants, but as soon as she takes him away, The child keeps crying in his hands and is unable to speak either. The child turns white and leaves the room, and Kate begins to raise the child, and Matt is unable to remove John Doe, the criminal who killed her. The owners of the house are in his head, and he continues searching for him and reads one of John Doe's statements in which he says that the room is what made him commit his crime, and they read that he goes to the hospital he is in so he can meet him. And he tells the reception that he wants to meet John Doe, and he lies and says that he is a journalist and wants to meet him so that he can do a journalistic interview with him. The nurse hears him meet him, and the first time Matt meets him, they say that he lives in the house where the crime happened, and John Doe understands the reason for the visit alone, and he asks Matt if he enjoyed the room well and hopes for everything he has in it, and they tell him that he should take his advice and leave the house and erase the room from his memory completely. But he knows that this will not happen, and he must bear the consequences of his wishes. Matt does not benefit from anything from Gundu and returns home, but the first person passes the gasoline to put gasoline in the car, and he comes to take money out of his pocket and finds it in ashes. He does not understand what is happening. So he goes home and throws a lot of money from the window of the house before it touches. The ground is turning to ash. He takes a plate from the existing plate and puts it on the doorstep of the house. But in the middle of the doorstep it turns to ashes. He understands that anything that comes outside the doorstep of the house is rotting and comes out dead, and breaks it in the room to understand how it works. But he finds that all its walls and the walls of the house are full of wires, like the wires in the basement. He sees his wife taking the baby outside the house and he tries to warn her, but his wife does not believe it and starts standing with the baby outside. And the baby's body begins to grow, and she feels irritated because she does not know what is happening to the child and he cannot. He hears his wife irritate without helping her, and a neighbor comes out to let the child in. Inside the house and looking at him, they find that his body has grown and become a big baby. Suddenly, she takes the child to protect him, leaves him sleeping, and goes down to Matt to understand what happened from him. And he tells her that the room creates anything, on one condition, that this thing never leaves the house, and that it will collapse and turn into ashes and look out after they find that the child. He woke up, standing behind them, and time passes, and she remains a child who treats the child as if he were her son, and she begins to teach him and study for him, and calls him Shane, and by legalization, he is sick and cannot go outside the house, and he who will be infected with many germs and may die, and he will die completely separated from them, and he will lock himself in his room to find out how to do the bathroom, and he will remain almost obsessive with her, to the point that he asks for a package containing a gun to protect himself with it in any situation. And Kate is all about Shane. He stays inside the house and never tries to go out, to the point that she locks the windows with wood from the outside, and Shane remains locked in the house. And Kate becomes afraid for him, even from eating and scraping ice, because she is afraid. On his teeth, and they don't break until he walks one day when he enters the room behind Kate and Bella. Noor shuts down a second love and goes towards the room, and Bella's strength is like a big forest with exactly the same imagination as the child, and Matt understands that the matter is more dangerous, and he goes out of the room and prevents him from entering the room. He enters it again, locks the room with the key, and tells Kate that no one will enter the room again because Shin remains a danger to them, because he could simply wish for a dragon and then they will all be destroyed. He hears that the phone is ringing and Shin answers it, even though he is forbidden to answer anyone, and the caller will be Gondu from the mental hospital. He knows the house number because he lived there before, and I think of him talking to John Doe, and he tells John Doe that it is clear that they wanted a child, and the child also grew up after he left the house, and this is what would happen if he went outside the house again for a long period, and then his brother would die and die, but in one way, if we want the child not to grow up and live a normal life. Then Kate will hear the call from the second speaker and hear John Doe saying that in order for a manufactured thing to live, the maid must die. meaning that in order for Shane to live normally, what he hopes for must die at home. And so Kate must die, and it is possible that Lucienne is the one who killed her. Then he is arrested and thrown into a mental hospital like this, and Matt understands that John Doe was born in the room, too. And there are no records because he was an illusionist from the room and killed his family so that he could live. But while Kate hears the call, she accidentally makes a sound, and Matt knows that Kate heard the call and accepted. When he goes to her, she has taken the car and gone away from the house, and Matt stays alone with Shane in the house. And Shane keeps asking him where his mother is and weighing on him until Matt loses his temper and says that he is not real and that he is an imaginary person and has no father or mother, and takes him by the hand and opens for him outside the house and tells him that if he goes out of the house, he will die because he is not real, and there are no germs. He will be harmful, and it is all a story that was written down to make him afraid of going out. Nothing more. Shane is afraid of Matt and runs to his room, and he is afraid. She comes home and meets Matt and tells him that she needed to think a little about what happened. She heard him and didn't want to talk about what he said again. During the day, Shane was pulled over and stolen from Matt's keys. Matt woke up to the sound of the door opening, and the two of them got up to see who opened the door, and Bella found that Shane had fallen to the ground, and a voice came out from the hall, and Bella found that Shane had grown old and remained a mature young man, holding his hand. Matt's gun is in his hand, and he threatens with it. And he wants to kill Matt because he doesn't love him. And at that time, he always stays with Kate, and Kate tries to give her son Shane a gift and takes the gun from him until Matt attacks him and hits Kate on the piano letter and sings to her, and she sees Matt fighting with Shane, but she wakes up and he is in front of her. Matt checks on her and she asks what happened to Shane, and he tells her that while they were fighting, a bullet hit her wrongly and got into her and killed her. He took him out of the house so that his body would disappear, and they both went outside the house to the place where Shane died. And then Matt took her away and took her inside the house. But it turns out that the real one died, unconscious. At home, Biff and the real Matt keep looking for Kate and not finding her. He runs to the room and looks for her key but does not find Hosh. He understands that Shane and Kate are inside the room and Shane is closing in on them from inside. Matt keeps digging in the living room so that he can enter inside the hall, and he knows that Shane is hoping that he will stay. The same appearance as Matt, and as he made an entire forest, he made a house that was a replica of their real house. So he was able to go outside the doorstep of the house, because the house itself became an illusion inside the room, and Shane, in the form of Matt, would be sitting with Kate and eating it together until Shane made a mistake and was eating snow. The one in front of him is cackling, and this is a move. Kate knows that Matt is not doing it, but he is the one who is doing it, and she suspects him and tries to escape from him. At the same time, the real Matt succeeds. He enters the room through caution and keeps running in the woods until he finds a house that is an exact replica of the house they live in. He understands Shane's plan, who is then trying to rape Kate because he thinks she loves him. He acts in this way as she loves Matt, and Matt enters the house. During Kate's escape, she finds that there are two of them who died in front of her, and the two are exact copies of each other, and she does not know who to believe until she goes to one of them. She doesn't run away with him, she calls him by the name of Shane, and she finds him with her name. And she realizes that she is with Ashin, not Matt. And she throws down the stairs and falls unconscious, and runs away from the house towards the entrance to the room in the forest. And they open the door, and then they enter the real house and try to get out of it before Shane catches them, and Matt stays standing with the door behind him. The house is open until Shane attacks him and takes him outside the house. Kate locks the door of the house and sees Shane outside and begs to let him in. He grows older before her until he becomes old and falls to the ground and turns to ashes and dies in front of Kate's eyes. But after a month has passed, she does this, a pregnancy test, and it comes out positive. And she remains, you don't know what to do and you're tired. Don't be pregnant because of Shane, not someone